What's up guys, and welcome back to another Wynand Crypto video. I have irrefutable evidence that Swift has been secretly testing blockchain technology for years. They're busy planning to include HBAR, XRP, and other cryptocurrencies in the global Swift payment system directly. No longer is this speculation, the evidence is overwhelming, and I'm going to share it with you all today. The financial revolution that we've been predicting for years is now underway right now. Let's dive into what the banking elite don't want retail investors to discover. What's up, crypto family? Before we begin, if you're new here, completely destroy that subscribe button because today we're leaking the dots that mainstream financial media are deliberately hiding on purpose. Look at this. ISO 222 in bytes for payments just 6 months ago. This is not an update. This is Swift itself telling global financial institutions this is your final deadline. You need to get on this new messaging platform immediately. And when we start to explore their webinars, documentation, and behind the scene communication, the evidence becomes absolutely irrefutable. I'm going to demonstrate to you this clip from a legitimate Swift webinar that most people completely ignored. Listen very carefully to what they're saying.
Engaging with partners throughout our experimentation processes and innovation, it's one of those values that we want to bring to our partner community. And it's included in the frameworks of these partnership programs. One example is, for instance, how we're trying to pilot integrations with companies that offer services built upon underlying DLT-based technologies, and starting, as you mentioned before, in the trade finance and supply chain space, but every day more and more open to evaluate experiments with other companies in other verticals.
They're not just looking into it, they're actual piloting systems based on distributed ledger technology as the foundation, and they clearly said trade finance and supply chain as the starting points. When I hear trade finance, what is the first thing that comes to mind? If you thought of XDC, you're absolutely right. Your crypto sense is clearly well owned. Alright, now let's talk about something completely crucial that virtually no crypto YouTubers are mentioning. Swift's CBR Plus initiative. This is a massive undertaking to achieve standard cross-border payments globally and unlock brand new possibilities on their network. And get this, Ripple has been specifically included as being one of the blockchain payment options that will be included on the CBR Plus program. Listen to Swift themselves in their own official publications.
As part of the activity to upgrade your systems and processes, and until all major platforms globally have upgraded, testing will continue to pose a challenge because of the constant cycle of change. Payment messages flow through a complex processing chain within each bank's systems, including the banking channels, the payments processing engine, screening systems, as well as the core banking system. So it's essential to plan having enough time for testing and make sure that you have a well-structured and well-thought-of testing strategy where all participants can exercise their systems and processes so that once it gets switched on, everybody knows how it should work, and more crucially, if something goes wrong, then people know how to respond.
They're staging the entire global financial system for this massive technological upgrade, and XRP is right in the middle of it. This is no speculation, it's documented proof. Now I'm going to show you some Swift documents that expressly name drop Ripple. I've been collecting them for months. Look at this one here discussing their centralized payments hub orchestrator, which they refer to as an intermediary between the financial institutions, backend systems, and Swift network. It quite literally states it also enables enabling with various types of payment channels like Visa Direct and Ripple. There it is. In black and white official Swift documentation. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. And that is not all. Here's another Swift document regarding cross-border ISO standards that states point blank, Ripple has already built a number of solutions on top of instant cross-border payments blockchain technology. These aren't conspiracy theories or leaked reports. These are actual Swift documents that clearly acknowledge Ripple's solution and technology. If you still don't believe that Swift has been extensively testing the XRP ledger, I don't know what further evidence you need. This is as clear-cut as it comes. Now, I just want to completely be honest with you all. I don't want you to get married to timetables or dates. Yes, Swift has put out migration timelines for ISO 222, but we have to be realistic when it comes to banking infrastructure. Many banks, and especially medium-sized banks and credit unions, are going to struggle to meet these deadlines, as opposed to JP Morgan, Citibank, and Bank of America with their huge IT personnel and billion-dollar tech budgets. Small banks and financial institutions have much to depend on upgrades and counsel from Swift in an attempt to lead them through such intricate changes. This is going to create a multi-speed financial system in transition. Another key document I saw states, ISO 20022 data interchange, as the new financial platforms require updated protocols to accommodate blockchain technology. This is definite confirmation that the ISO 20022 standard is being created with blockchain integration in mind specifically. And then in April 2025, Swift directly mentioned their collaboration with Chainlink in an article titled Modernizing Corporate Actions Technology Through Collaboration. That's evidence that they're not just looking at one blockchain solution, they're building a whole ecosystem of blockchain integrations. They're taking this technology transition seriously. Let's dig deeper. In March 2024, Swift published a paper endorsing the vision of a universal shared ledger based on messaging. Remember, of course, RippleNet is essentially a next-generation messaging platform with settlement capability built in. Here they even reference directly Cities, Tony's, McLaughlin's 2021 innovative suggestions of a regulated liability network, RLN. This is a fresh concept of distributed ledger-based shared ledger that would involve central banks, commercial banks, e-money issuers, and even stablecoins as part of a regulated system. The article states, however, this does not have to be so. Recent interviews with Standard Chartered, we've talked structure needed for organization to disrupt itself, redesigning shared ledgers. In 2021, Cities Tony's McLaughlin proposed regulated liability network, RLN. The concept is a shared ledger of DLT for all types of regulated payment between e-money providers, commercial banks, and central banks, possibly stablecoins. This is Swift openly discussing how they might break their business model with the inclusion of blockchain. That's the level of dedication they have to show in this transformation. Finally, let's address the million-dollar question: why would Swift keep on mentioning Ripple and XRP in particular in a number of papers on how to improve cross-border payments if using Ripple's technology was not their target? I found another Swift document that is even more targeted. Under the payment providers section, they specifically mention Ripple, and directly below that, Earthport, something that's known by people in the industry to be essentially Ripple 2.0. Even more telling, they have a section labeled Swift GPI with XRP prominently displayed. Think about it sensibly. Swift would have been able to use any cryptocurrency in their test documentation. They could have used Bitcoin, Ethereum, or some other top-ranked crypto. Why then XRP? There's only one reason it makes sense: because XRP is most widely used by financial institutions in the world of cryptocurrency. And why XRP specifically? Because Ripple has been compliance first since day one. While other crypto projects were fixated on not getting regulated, Ripple has been sitting down with regulators and asking them to approve their solutions as banking grade.
Okay, so look, Western Union isn't going to go out of business anytime soon. They're going to adopt different technologies. Okay, but this is where the big money is. It's not in remittances. It's in these business-to-business payments across border. And that's why we have these kinds of companies like Ripple and Stellar. This is all about, right, business-to-business, back-end, big volume transactions, which are currently, very expensive. So if we look at the payment system, they're not sitting at the, you're sending money back to your uncle, right? It is, right, at the bank level. So the banks are making transactions with other banks. Now, nothing's changed here. You're still doing something like correspondent banking, except now, because the data needs to move around more quickly than the money moves around, right? We can settle these things more quickly. So the difference between a Bitcoin and a Ripple, in a nutshell, again, not too much time to elaborate, is that what Bitcoin uses is an open, permissionless, distributed ledger system, right, where anybody can jump in and do a transaction. Right, that's kind of the beauty of it. I can go buy Bitcoin, you can go buy Bitcoin. We don't need to ask anybody's permission, and there's no middleman that can, accept or deny, approve or reject. It's distributed, the consensus around validating these transactions. What's different about systems like Ripple and most of the blockchain systems that will prevail is that they are permissioned, meaning that you have to be, a member, and membership has its privileges. And so you have these different nodes, and the nodes basically know one another. Okay, and then if I want to give money to my uncle back in France, let's say, then I have to go to one of these banks that are a member of the Ripple network, and then my uncle will go to one of these banks that's a member of the Ripple network, and then those banks will do their transacting through this distributed ledger.
So now have a listen to this instructive clip from Deutsche Bank, which, by the way, is a Ripple partner.
James will enable the adoption of ISO 20022 for cross-border payments to be carried out in a smoother and less disruptive way. Based on the concept of transaction management, the platform will maintain full ISO 20022 transaction data that any authorized party in the payment chain can access. This eliminates the problem of intermediaries who breaking the chain by not passing on the complete data. Therefore, members can choose to benefit more quickly from rich data without needing to wait for all the parties in the payment chain to be ISO 20022 enabled.
Did you catch that critical sentence? Or by a trusted third party onto the platform. That's the technical on-ramp for Ripple's adoption. They're actually building the on-ramp for XRP in the world's financial system. The following cryptocurrencies have been verified to be ISO 222 compliant as of April 2025. We have XRP, Stellar Lumens, XDC, Algorand, IOTA, Hedera Hashgraph, Quant, and Cardano. This is a roster that will inevitably grow as further projects achieve compliance, but it's important to recognize that only XRP and HBAR have demonstrated recent relationships with Swift blockchain integration endeavors. HBAR is already on live trails, and XRP has a longer history of association with the traditional financial system. The path to integration isn't speculation, it's already happening behind the scenes, so most retail investors won't realize what's occurring until it's fully implemented and announced. Now let's share something amazing. This guy spent 20 years constructing the system we're discussing at Swift. He's familiar with both the Swift network topology and the XRP ledger. He's familiar with them at root level. So pay attention to what he says.
The discussion surrounding crypto replacing SWIFT. So we did speak earlier where you mentioned that it's not necessarily about replacing SWIFT, it's about complementing it. So let's get some more information on this.
Okay. I used to work for Swift. I was Swift for 20 years, so Swift is flowing through my veins. Swift is the preeminent messaging system for the financial industry, which covers, say, payments, FX, trade, in terms of securities, etc., Nostra reconciliations, etc. What we're looking with the crypto, though, is where Swift would have a store and forward system for most of its payment transactions, where you need service level agreements that in a certain time I will do something, but payment turns up at a certain time during the day. Here we're looking at the new network styles, which allow instant, real-time movement to the funds and visibility of those funds as well. So we would not have a situation where banks need to come back to you and say, have my funds arrived? It's 3 days later. I need to find out or find query messages moving around the network. There's nothing like that. I don't believe Ripple is going to replace SWIFT. Ripple is one of the complementary networks, which is going to allow those institutions who need real time to make use of that. And I think we're also seeing that Swift are changing their network capability so that real time will be a possibility as well. But we may also see Ripple XRP moving across the Swift network as a currency when we're perhaps using something like F.
If you want to long or short XRP, go to Wynand Crypto, and on this video, you're going to find a link to sign up to BTCC to be able to trade Bitcoin and XRP and other cryptocurrencies. And you guys, with BTCC and only my BTCC link, you can get a limited time $10,000 bonus on your first deposit. This is where I open all of my long positions and all of my trades. I think it's a fantastic place to be trading, so make sure to use my link down in the description below if you want to sign up and start trading XRP. I would be really thankful if you guys support my small channel with just moving your funds from your old trading platform to BTCC and then just racking in that huge bonus. It helps you and me. And if you own XRP, do your part, show your support. I love you all, and I will see you very soon. Until the next time, Wynand Crypto out.